Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Heather, and on this channel we like to walk a very fine line between a shopping addicted makeup monster and a responsible adult with a makeup hobby. Now, I really enjoy eyeshadow singles, duochromes, multichromes, blush, highlight, lip gloss, basically everything except pressed glitter. And today we're going to be doing a little tag that was, I believe, started by Batty Bean, which is the if I could only use 5 brands tag. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, stick with me. We're getting into it right now. Now, the person that I saw do this video first was Batty Bean, so I will try to tag her video and channel down below so that you guys can see that video. But basically what she wanted to do was try to limit herself to only 5 brands and still be able to do a full face of makeup. I was like, okay, challenge accepted. And then as soon as I started thinking about it, I'm like, but wait, that can't be 5 brands that I use just eyeshadows, right? I still need 5 brands that also cover my base products, my face, like blush, highlight, everything. And then I started thinking like, oh no, what have I done? But I went through, I made a list of every like category of makeup that I typically use. And then I made a list of all the brands that I really love to shop from, the ones that I know I pick multiple products from. And once I had that brand list, which I'm going to try to like put across the screen right now so you guys can see all the brands in all their glory. There are some drugstore, some high-end, some indie, some mainstream. You've got a little bit of everything in this list. And really, once I saw the list, then I started thinking about like which brands can I pick and choose from that can kind of puzzle piece together to make this work, because I really love eyeshadow, right? So I need to be able to do an extensive eyeshadow like options, but then I also need to still be able to do the rest of my face. I also worried because I'm very picky about my mascaras, I'm very picky about my foundation and concealers, and my highlighters and my blush. So with all of those things where I'm very, very choosy, I still needed to find those brands that worked for multiple categories. And I think I finally did it. As I was getting my list narrowed down, I decided to challenge myself further by not allowing myself to pick ColourPop. And the reason for that is because ColourPop basically does every category of makeup. You could literally do all ColourPop and then 4 other brands for eyeshadow, which would have been delightful now that I think about it, but I wanted to challenge myself a little bit more than that. So, with that said, let's talk through my full face of makeup, and what I'm going to do is walk through my entire face, brows, lips, and then we'll do eyeshadow last, or eye products last. So the first brand that came to my mind that I knew I was going to want to use was one that Batty Bean also used, and it's NYX. Now, NYX is drugstore brand. They have literally everything in the market, right? Like, you could literally do a full face of NYX. Would I? Probably not, but you could. And I picked them for the reason I picked them is because they have complexion products that are going to work really well for me. So they have the NYX Marshmallow Primer, which looks like this. I actually already exhausted travel size of this one, and then this is my backup, which is the full size that I'm about ready to start. I'm trying to use up some of my other primers first so that I don't have so many open at once, but this is going to be the primer that I would go for in this hypothetical 5 brand only scenario. As far as foundation and concealer, initially I wasn't sure which ones I wanted to go with, and then I remembered they did these Born to Glow ones, and although I hate this stupid applicator which you like can't clean, I think this is so disgusting, I do really like the texture and the finish of this like tinted moisturizer, light to medium coverage foundation, and the concealer that goes with it. So I have the shades Light Ivory and what shade are you? Do you not say? I guess you don't say. Oh, here we go. Also Light Ivory. So Light Ivory in both. And I do think these are really nice. They do give like a really great finish to the complexion. It's actually what I'm wearing right now, and I think it does look really nice on camera and in person. I can definitely sheer it out a little bit if I want something a little lighter coverage, or I can build it a little bit. I definitely cannot get this to like a full coverage, but I personally don't prefer that anyway, so that doesn't bother me too much. As far as a finishing powder, I did also choose the NYX High Glass powder. Now this does not seem to be available on Ulta anymore, but it is available on, or it was available on their website, so I'm going to still include it, but this is the finishing powder that I would use in this hypothetical scenario because I think it does a really good job. It kind of blurs and blends everything out really nicely. If you've ever used like the Dior Powder No Powder, or there was like that Too Faced Poreless powder, things like that where it's like very blurring, this has that same effect to it and I do really like it. It does come in different shades, which I also appreciate. I personally go with the lightest one because I'm a ghost, but it works really nicely for me, so that was the powder that I picked. And then let's talk about blush, bronzer, and highlight, because that's where we're going to get into brand number 2, and that's Nabla. So Nabla is an Italian indie brand. They are actually sold at Beauty Bay and Ulta, and they have a lot of really cool stuff. But the first place that I thought to incorporate them was in blush, bronzer, and highlight. And it's because they have these baked products. So here's a bronzer, I've got a couple of their highlighters, and then I've got 3 of their blushes, which all come in this like kind of acrylic-y packaging, which I do appreciate. The bronzer was actually a gift from a friend of mine, and it's in the shade Ombre. It's a really, really beautiful bronzer. It's like nice and light, so I don't feel like I'm sort of having to go very light or very judicious with the powder. I feel like I can just kind of slather it on and it looks pretty good. The highlighters that I have are Privilege, which has a very soft pink to gold duochrome effect. It's actually the highlight that I'm wearing today, so you can see that right there. And then Ozone is the other one I have, which is like a super white, kind of like blinding champagne icy highlighter, kind of like an Ofra glazed donut, something like that. So these two are really nice highlighters. And then the blushes that I have are Truth, Lola, and Independence. So Independence is kind of this like walnutty, kind of cool toned pinky blush. Lola is described more like this like watermelon pinky red blush. And then Truth is, I think, more of like a duochrome. Yeah, it's like a pink to gold duochrome type blush, but also very pretty. They're all baked, so they have this really nice like soft luminosity to them that I do appreciate as well. So for me, Nabla works really well to kind of fill in some gaps with the face products. So the blush, bronzer, and highlight all go to Nabla. For brows, I went ahead and picked the NYX Lift and Snatch brow pencil, or brow pen, I guess. It's a waterproof pen, and it has that like felt tip where you can kind of just like sketch in the lines, and I do really like that one. I actually like it so much it's in my car, because there are days where I leave to go to work and then realize when I'm halfway to work that I don't have brows on, so I have to stop quick and put on brows, and that's a pen that I keep in my car to do just that. So I would definitely choose that one. I think it's about $10 or $11. It works really, really nicely. And then setting spray I also gave to NYX because it's, you know, one of those like workhorse products. I'm not super particular about a setting spray, so I just picked the Dewy Finish setting spray. I've not personally tried that one from NYX yet. It's the only product in this entire conversation that I haven't tried before, but I figured it would work pretty decently, and NYX usually has pretty good like staple products like that, so went ahead and crossed that one off the list as well. We can talk lips as well. So lips, definitely, this was another scenario where I thought of Nabla because they have this really awesome looking Viper gloss. So if you've never seen this packaging, it has this like snake venomous picture on it, which I think is so cool. And it's a plumping gloss. It is not as third degree burn as the Too Faced lip injection, which I do appreciate because that one is horrible. But it definitely is a little bit more potent than like the Lawless, the Milani, any of those other like kind of subtle plumpers, the Milk Makeup. It's similar in effect to the Milk Makeup plumper that they have, the Szechuan one, but it doesn't have that same like vibrating quality like the Milk Makeup one does. So I like this one though. I think it's about the top end of my tolerance, so I definitely picked that one out. And then in combination with the NYX Butter Lipsticks, the Butter Glosses are also really good, but the Butter Lipsticks are bomb. I think they've started retiring these, but this is Ripe Berry and Root Beer Float, and they're both just really beautiful shades. I have Ripe Berry on right now, and then I did a little bit in the center with Root Beer Float. I do think they're very complimentary, very smooth, they wear nicely, and I'm not bothered by them throughout the day. So that combination of lip products between those two brands was absolutely perfect for me. And then we get into eyes. So because I was able to make such good use of the two brands, NYX and Nabla, to cover pretty much all of my face and lip products, I had 3 spots left over for eyeshadow. And I used them all for eyeshadow. So I knew full well that I was not going to be able to get away with just using like regular mattes and shimmers. I was going to want something that had like multi-chrome, duochrome, something special to it. So the something special that I decided to go with between all of those brands that we talked about before was Clionadh. I will not bore you to death with the singles that I have from Clionadh, but I will show you the kind of special shades that I have. I have 2 different palettes from them. This is the original magnetic palette that I got for my original orders of multi-chromes, which look like this. So I have jeweled multi-chromes here. I have the glitter multi-chromes here. These are some iridescent glitter. I'm sorry, these are some iridescent glitters. These are just the type 2 iridescents. I have the vibrance here. I have one of the deep iridescents. That's the shade Vert. I have the pastel shades here, and then these are the hybrids. And I do really like a lot of the formulas here, obviously, or I wouldn't have bought so many of the shades. But they just did their expansion, and they definitely put out a lot of really great options in the expansion. So I did go ahead and pick up all of these. So in this one, they released some different formulas. So these are the glitter vibrants. We have these, which are the pastels? Pearlescents. These are the pearlescents. Some more of the glitters, some more of the iridescent volume 2s. These are the earth vibrants. I've got 2 of the deep iridescents. I've got 1 of the hybrids. I believe that's a hybrid. Oh Lord. Yeah, one of the hybrids. I could have done that without just threatening its entire existence. And then these are the vibrant glitter combination. So lots of really, really pretty shades there. And I was just really excited to make sure that I had something like that to incorporate into my eye looks forever and ever and ever. The other thing that I have that has some really great shades from Clionadh is the Dragon Fruit palette from Emily Violet Marie. That was the collab that they did, and it looks like this. Super, super pretty shades. And you do have some really pretty multi-chrome shades in here, these 2 in particular. Some really nice satin and metallic shades. So all in all, I think with the addition of Clionadh to my like 5 brands to pick from, I think it's a good choice. Because I chose Nabla, I am also able then to draw on the Nabla eyeshadow palettes that I have, so I'll just quickly show you those so you can see kind of in my hypothetical world what I'd still have to work with. I have the Nabla Cutie palette, the Analog palette, which looks like this. It's this really pretty kind of like smoky orangey fall palette. The Nabla Midnight palette, which is one of my favorites. It's got this really beautiful blue color story with a pop of gold. It's like a very brassy gold. I have the Cutie palette in Coral, which is this really pretty kind of pink and red color story. And then my personal favorite is the wine one, which is called Wild Berry, which looks like that. And it has this really pretty blue to kind of like fuchsia pink duochrome. In the larger palettes, I have the Side by Side palette, which is one of their neutral palettes, which looks like that. I have the Poison Garden palette, which looks like that. I have the Secret palette, which looks like that. I like that even more than the Poison Garden palette. I love that center row. So, so pretty. And then I have the original Dreamy palette, which looks like that. This sparkly shade up here is like a duochrome. So pretty. It's like a blue to purple. I have the Soul Blooming, which is one of my absolute favorite palettes. And then lastly, I have the Nabla Dreamy 2. So those are all the Nabla palettes that I have. Let me tell you about the other palettes that I'd be incorporating. So, as you've already seen, we have the Nabla eyeshadow formula being incorporated into my eyeshadow collection for this hypothetical 5 brands or less scenario. I also have the added benefit of the Clionadh Super Sparkly Shimmer Multi-Chrome type shades. And I realized then I was also going to need some really nice mattes. Now, I love color, right? I don't live in neutral territory. And while Nabla does have some very beautiful palettes and very beautiful shimmery, toppery type shades, they do a lot of neutrals. So neutrals, check, got it, under control. But I needed some color. So I decided to turn to Nomad Cosmetics. Now, they were not necessarily my first choice, but once I said, you know, I want to avoid color pop, I need something with a lot of variety, I started thinking about how much variety I have from some of my indie brands, and I have a very prolific Nomad collection. So I'm just going to show you my palettes here. I do still have their newest palette, the Monteverde Cloud Forest Costa Rica palette is on its way to me right now. So I will have that one. And then the other palettes that I have from them would be Nomad America's Parks, which is arguably one of their most neutral palettes. Berlin Underground, which looks like that. I have Haunted Europe, which looks like that. I have the 9-pan Lago de Como. I do not have the Italian Tuscany palette that goes with that one though. I have the Fête de Provence palette, which looks like that. The Tokyo Harajuku palette, and I'm so happy to be incorporating Nomad because then I get to make use of these shimmer shades down here, and they're just like, they're like stupid pretty. They're so nice. They're so like shiny. This is probably one of the first brands that actually had that super shiny duochrome type formula out on the market and just like went with it. But then they seemed to like stop it after the Studio 54 launch, which I do not have. This is the Cartagena Mágica palette. So I have that one as well. I have the Antilles palette, which looks like that. I have the Land of Ice and Fire palette, which looks like that. This shade here is so cool. It's like this grungy, bronzy, greeny, olivey brown with like aqua teal sparkles. Such a cool color. I have the Whistler Snow Lodge palette, which is another really awesome palette. Love this one. It looks so cool. And then I have the Isle of Paradise palette, which looks like this. And I have their kind of forgotten Beijing palette. Shanghai palette, excuse me. I cannot keep my memory straight here. And that one looks like this. So I think with that collection of palettes, I would have a really good mix of bright and colorful matte shades. I'd have some pastel shades. I'd have had some grungy shades. There's some jewel tones in here. There's some bright metallics in here. So I think I would get a really good variety if I was going to be limited to, you know, just these couple of eyeshadow formulas. It's a really easy to work with formula. They have a variety of different colors. They're always coming out with something new. So I feel like I wouldn't get bored with the eyeshadows that I had if that was the constraint that I carried through. Let me just say, to go under those eyeshadows, I'd be using the NYX Pigment Primer, which is one of my favorite eyeshadow primers. I used to use the Milani primer all the time, and then this one kind of blew it out of the water, so now this is pretty much my exclusive user. And then I did pick out the NYX Glitter Glue. While I do love the Pastel Roses UK Glitter Glue more, I didn't have space in my like 5 brands or less to pick that brand specifically for the glitter glue that they have and then the really beautiful flaky shades that they have. I just didn't have enough room in my 5 brands or less to be able to do that, so I had to kind of sacrifice my favorite glitter glue for like a decent glitter glue in order to keep to my 5 brands total. Alright, so for eyeliners then, by incorporating NYX and Nabla, I'm actually able to accomplish a lot of different eyeliner formulas. So NYX gives me a couple of different formulas. They have a liquid liner, which I have the white version of here, and then they do have these really nice pencil eyeliners. They're kind of like a gel pencil, and this is one of their faux whites, but they have faux whites, they have faux blacks, they have some jewel tones, they have a lot of different shades. So I feel like between those two I have kind of some liquid like graphic liner type things and then just a waterline liner covered. I also have the Nabla Cupid's Arrow liners, which can work for lip liners or eyeliners. My personal recommendation is when you get the color, decide where you're going to use it and stick to it. So I have one of these in navy, which I use for my waterline, but I would not use on my lip because I used it in the waterline, and vice versa. And then the last one is the Nabla Cereal Liner, which is a felt tip liner. I haven't opened this one yet because I'm trying to work through so many other liners that I have right now, but that liner is phenomenal. I went through a sample of that one already and I really, really enjoyed it. So I would definitely use those liners as like my entire liner needs met between those two brands. And then mascara, I think that's actually the last part of my makeup routine that we need to talk about, and the mascara that I chose was the Jumanji mascara. And in all actuality, Nabla calls this the Vicious mascara, but honestly, if I'm not like opening a portal to play a game of Jumanji, I don't know what this mascara is for. So it's all jokes aside, it is actually a really, really good mascara. It's got a plastic wand, which I'm not, like the bristles are plastic, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it does get like very low onto the lash, and I feel like it gives a lot of volume and keeps things looking very, very dark. So I do like the mascara. I like the packaging. It's nice and heavy, which I kind of appreciate too. It makes it feel a little bit more like luxe. So I would definitely continue to use this mascara despite the fact that it's like $23. My normal favorite mascara from Essence, the Lash Princess, is like $5. So this one kind of feels a little bit painful to purchase, but in keeping with my 5 brands, it satisfies my criteria, so this is the one for me. And I do find myself, even outside of this artificial constraint, going for that mascara over my Essence mascara, which tells me I think my preferences are starting to change a little bit. And if you've been keeping up with the math during this entire video, you will discover, as I have, that I got all the way through my entire makeup collection and only used 4 brands. So that leaves me one more brand to dedicate to eyeshadow. Now, I know there are a lot of brands right now that are doing like really special duochrome type shades and different type of like interesting palettes and like all shimmer palettes like Gourmand Girls and It's Belle and Sugar Drizzle, things like that. So for the 5th and final brand in this hypothetical 5 brands or less scenario, the brand that I picked out is Sugar Drizzle. Now, they have a bunch of really cool topper palettes, and one of my absolute favorites, like this is one of my absolute favorite palettes, is this one right here. This is the Man I Love Frogs palette, and I just love how like shimmery and beautiful these shades are. You do have some duochrome shades. Let me see, can I get... Like you can see, there we go. We got purple to teal. Yeah, beautiful. So this is one of my absolute favorite shades or favorite palettes from Sugar Drizzle. It's got beautiful toppers, shimmery shades, duochromes, so buttery and smooth. It does do that like oil leaking thing. I personally am not too worked up about that, but I know other people get worked up about it. I don't know. So that for me was not a big deal, but then I do also have the Gnome Chrome Halloween palette, which my kids got into, so I had to repress this bottom shade down here. But again, lots of beautiful toppery, shimmery shades. And then I have this Dragonfly palette here too. So lots of pretty like duochrome type shades that would be very complementary to my Nomad palettes, would be very complementary to my Nabla palettes, and to my Clionadh shimmers. Alright, and with that said, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Leave me a comment down below if you could only use products from 5 brands for the rest of your like makeup using life. What would be the 5 brands? And is there any particular like item that you would incorporate a brand specifically to make sure you got that one item? Because like for me, the Clionadh Multichromes, like no questions asked. I was like, I will scrimp other places to make sure I can accommodate this. So I'd really like to know what your choices would be down below. Again, I want to thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe before you go, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye!